Happy Halloween everyone, or if you're not watching this video in October, then happy whatever time of year it is. I love a good horror film this time of year, as well as a kaiju one. And as this video suggests, I'll be viewing a bunch of horror films and see if I can find any Easter eggs featuring Godzilla or other kaiju monsters hidden in them. While the Big G isn't in the movies himself, he can appear in them by way of his image on a poster, a TV screen, or a figurine, whatever actually shows him on screen, however hidden the cameo is. Also, this video is not counting instances where someone just says his name or if something features his iconic roar. Only on-screen appearances will count for this video. Also, while this list will primarily be going over movies, there'll be a few instances where I go over other horror-related topics connecting to Godzilla outside of films. Just giving you all a heads up on that. Anyway, that's enough rambling on for the intro. Let's dive into the meat of the video with one of my favorite horror franchises. Believe it or not, there's quite a few connections between the Friday the 13th films and kaiju movies. The Friday the 13th franchise can be simply summarized as crazed hockey mask killer lurking and slaying victims in the woods. And part 3 is no exception to that. In this entry, the character Debbie is finished taking a shower and relaxes on a hammock. While reading a magazine, particularly the famous horror magazine series Fangoria, while skimming through it, she turns to a page with an article titled 25 Years of Godzilla, which was written by Godzilla historian Ed Godzilla, going over the history of the Big G, which at the time was only 15 movies. Another interesting fact about this is that this Friday the 13th film was directed by Steve Miner, who was preparing to make the first Hollywood-made Godzilla film, Godzilla King of the Monsters, the following year, but was cancelled soon after. If that film had been made, then this would have been a nice piece of foreshadowing by the director. While we're on the subject of Friday the 13th, let's have a look at a fan favorite in the franchise, Part 4, the final chapter. The cameo this time around isn't of Godzilla, but instead Gamera, the giant turtle. In Part 4, the character Tommy Jarvis is a big fan of monsters, and when we take a look in his room, we can spot a Gamera hand puppet sitting on his desk. At least I think it's a hand puppet. I'm sure someone will correct me on that if I'm wrong. Now let's go from a fan favorite of the franchise to one of the black sheep of it. Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, the 5th entry in the series. Following the opening titles, we are introduced to, or reintroduced to, the character of Tommy Jarvis. He's on his way to a youth development center, and we can see several Godzilla images on a wall inside the institution's office. One is of a lobby card for Godzilla vs. Mothra, or as it was known in the United States at the time, Godzilla vs. The Thing. The second image is a promotional photograph of Godzilla from the original 1954 film. While we're on the subject of Friday the 13th, there were a few more strange ties between the two franchises. In the sketch comedy TV show Robot Chicken, there's a segment which is literally called Godzilla vs. Jason. It's a very brief but hilarious gag that has all of the military defeated by Godzilla, and as a final resort, they send out Jason Voorhees simply because he can't be killed, with a wacky narrator just going over how crazy the crossover is.
I would actually see this. I mean, like not on a Friday night.
It's absolutely worth checking out, and you can view it here on YouTube if you want to have a nice chuckle. Another link between the series is in Godzilla vs. Kong. Adam Wingard, the film's director, clarified in a Reddit post about a subtle reference from the Friday the 13th franchise's 10th installment, Jason X. The post says, and I quote, "The big reference that I haven't seen anyone pick up on is when Kong folds up and kills Nozuki. That was inspired by the holodeck murder scene in Jason X, when Jason picks up the camper in their sleeping bag and smashes them around." Yeah, I can kinda see the reference there, but I don't think this was something that anyone was gonna connect the dots with. I wonder if there will be any more connections between the series in the future. If I missed any, please let me know in the comments. The Puppet Master series is an underrated horror film franchise about a bunch of puppets who come to life through magic and go on a killing spree, or at times aim to save the day. Whatever the hell the writers of these films need them to be. Anyway, Part 4 stars protagonist Rick Myers, who is basically assisting in maintenance at a creepy inn. In one of the rooms, a Godzilla toy could be seen on a desk in several scenes. I'm not exactly sure what figure it is, so if anyone has the answer to that, please let me know in the comments. The 1988 film The Blob is a remake of a 1958 picture of the same name, both with the basic concept of an extraterrestrial amoeba invading Earth and consuming humans. So our Godzilla cameo comes in about 55 minutes into the film, where an unfortunate projectionist at a cinema is about to meet a cruel fate. Right when we are introduced to him, we could see in the background a poster of some kind for Godzilla 1985. Perhaps it was still playing in this theater at the time? Here we have another alien creature feature, this time from 1983, The Deadly Spawn, a film about a carnivorous monster that lives in a cellar and feeds on people. A young boy named Charles, one of the inhabitants of the place, is a monster movie maniac and litters his room with tons of creature memorabilia, such as King Kong, the Ymir from 20 Million Miles to Earth, the Rhedosaurus, and a Shogun Warrior Godzilla figure just chilling by the window. If I was a kid back in 1983, I swear this kid's room would have been just like mine. Speaking of adolescents who enjoy monster movies, in the 1987 movie Monster Squad, a group of youngsters used their knowledge of monster movies to thwart legendary creatures such as Dracula and the Wolfman from terrorizing their town. The kids often hang out in their treehouse, which is covered in monster movie stuff, and that includes various Godzilla posters and toys sprinkled throughout it. Even the figure of Alien Baltan from the Ultraman series can be seen in the treehouse as well.
And Helsing's something. Now, he's the one that fights Godzilla, right?
Dracula, Mom.
Well, then which is the really tall one?
That's Godzilla.
Stephen King's book It is most likely his most well-known work due to its antagonist, an ancient alien that most of the time takes the appearance of a horrific clown named Pennywise, who terrorizes children. Before the book got its first film adaptation in 2017, it was adapted as a two-part miniseries that aired on ABC in 1990. During the first half, the character Richie Tozer is performing a comedy sketch about the electric company. He name-drops Godzilla when mentioning his attack on the power lines from the original film, or possibly from King Kong vs. Godzilla.
How much power does the electric company remember Godzilla?
Shortly after this, we see a Godzilla floaty hanging around in Richie's pool. Also, while we're on the subject of Stephen King's work, the alien in the original novel morphs into a gigantic bird and attacks one of the kids. The book does not depict the bird's appearance, though one of the characters describes it as a cross between a crow and the kaiju Rodan. Speaking of killer clowns, another quick shout out goes to Clownzilla from the 1988 film Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Given the alien clown's namesake, I'd say this is an obvious reference to the Big G himself. Campfire Tales is a horror anthology film from 1991. The plot revolves around a bunch of kids at a campfire with a guy named Ralph, who tells them horror stories. The second tale he tells them involves these two guys beginning to rot away from doing pot. Often at times they're seen watching TV, and one of the movies they happen to be watching is Godzilla vs. Megalon. It's kinda hard to tell here, but that is one of the films that's on the telly. Let's quickly look at a better horror anthology film. Creepshow, released in 1982, is an anthology film that goes over 5 short horror stories. But for this video, we're not even going to look at any of them. Instead, we only need to view the opening sequence, which has a kid arguing with his dad. We get a quick glimpse inside the kid's room, and inside we can see various monster figures scattered throughout it. Among them are 2 kaiju toys, both Godzilla and Rodan, that can also be seen at the end of the movie as well. Creepshow was directed by George Romero, who is best known for his Zombie of the Dead movies. His name is definitely well known in the horror community, and this is the only film he's directed to have a Godzilla reference in it, or at least that I'm aware of. However, in the late 90s, when the popular video game Resident Evil 2 was about to be released, Romero was hired to direct a commercial to advertise the game in Japan. After he finished, he was given a bonus gift for his work, that being both a Godzilla and Mothra figure from the 1992 Godzilla film. Romero would later give them to his 6-year-old kid. Halloween is one of the best horror movies ever made, with the simple concept of a masked lunatic stalking and killing people in a small town. John Carpenter, the film's director, is an enormous Godzilla fan and has never been afraid to express his affection towards the series. In fact, Shout Factory hosted a Godzilla movie marathon not too long ago that John Carpenter hosted. So we all know he loves Godzilla. But whether it was intentional or not, Carpenter managed to sneak a Godzilla Easter egg in his legendary film, Halloween. When this reference appears, your eyes aren't focused on it, which makes it extremely difficult to notice. However, if you examine this particular scene closely, you can see a Godzilla comic on the couch next to Lori and Tommy as they're watching TV. Specifically issue 12 of Marvel Comics' Godzilla, King of the Monsters, which at the time during Halloween's release was still an ongoing series. Makes you wonder if Carpenter was reading the comic during its run. If so, that's pretty awesome.
No matter how Godzilla is manifested on the screen, his roar lives on.
And that'll do it for this video. If there's any other Godzilla horror cameos that I may have missed, please write so in the comments so I can check them out. And on that everyone, I wish you all a happy Halloween, and I'll see you all next time.
Tonight at 8 on TNT's Monster Vision. Get ready for the greatest wrestling event of them all, Godzilla Bash 94. Godzilla takes on 9 new challengers. The awesome strength of Gamera, 3-headed Ghidra, Titanosaurus, and their manager, Mr. Evil himself.
It's more frightening than I ever thought possible.